This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the 2023 Dell XPS 17, model 9730. Much the same as last year. In fact, the casing is exactly the same, but it's one of those magical years when we get a new CPU and a new GPU inside. We're going to look at it now. Two reasons why this won't be a very long review. Number one, like I said, this is the same chassis and the same stuff basically as last year's model, but with a new CPU and GPU inside. And second, there just isn't that much competition. We're talking a 17-inch thin and light, thinner and lighter than a mobile workstation, but kind of with the mobile workstation level of power inside. Yeah, there's the LG Gram 17, but this has a significantly more powerful processor and more powerful dedicated graphics inside. So for those of you who like the XPS 15, as always, but you just want more of it, a bigger screen and all that sort of thing, well, obviously the XPS 17 is it. And now a shout out to our sponsor, ESR. They make more than just cases. They do accessories too. They do Samsung stuff. They do iPhone stuff. We're going to look at the iPhone stuff this time around. One is the Geo wallet, which is Geo because it actually has Find My support. So you can fit 1 to 3 credit cards in there, and then you can use Find My because goodness gracious, you don't want to lose those any more than you would want to lose your phone. So you put the wallet somewhere and you can't find it. It has a strong magnet, 1500 G's of force, so it's not going to come off, but of course the magnet's on the opposite side of the credit card. But what if you need battery power too? They have the power bank wallet. So similar idea, it is a stand with strong magnetic attachment, landscape or portrait mode, and you've got a 5000 milliamp battery inside to charge your iPhone now. And lastly, one of my favorites is the 3-in-1 wireless charging set. They've done charging stands before for the iPhone and its accessories. So this one even more compact. So it can charge your iPhone, it has 20 watts of total charging power, and your AirPods, and also the Apple Watch. And the Apple Watch part is removable as a little USB-C connector. Be sure to visit the link in the description to check them out. And now back to our video. You still have 2 display options, a Full HD Plus or a 4K Plus display. Both of these are IPS. Well, the 4K might be IGZO technology, a variation of IPS. Both are 500 nit displays. The Full HD Plus is matte non-touch. The 4K is glossy touch. It's not like a mirror, you know, it's not that bad, but it is a glossy display. And you've got the same short travel. I'm not a huge fan of it. Some people are. Keyboard, backlit in white. It's fine, it's okay. And the humongous trackpad a la the MacBook Pro, unchanged again. And you have a 720p webcam. This is where this chassis design is showing its age. There's just not room for a higher resolution webcam, I suspect. And just like with the XPS 15, even though we have a killer branded Intel AX211 card, which should be capable of Wi-Fi 6E, there's not enough antenna room in the chassis, I'm guessing, to enable that. So it's just Wi-Fi 6 with Bluetooth, of course, as well. And you've still got your USB-C/Thunderbolt. It's Thunderbolt 4 ports and dongle life, but you do get a little dongle adapter in the box as ever with XPSs, so that gives you an HDMI 2.0 port and a USB-A port. But at least you get a full-size SD card slot, which is yay for content creators who this is targeted at, and of course a headphone jack. Thank God that hasn't gone away yet. So the one thing besides the size difference, obviously, between this and the XPS 15 is there's more room for cooling inside. So we have a vapor chamber inside, which is, well, more effective at cooling. So that makes the XPS 17 even more performant than the 15-inch, which isn't unusual. Usually the bigger the laptop, the more room you got for cooling, yada, yada, you know. But it's interesting there's still no vapor chamber on the 15-inch. So that means that with Intel 13th generation Core i7 and Core i9 H series 45-watt processors and NVIDIA RTX graphics from a 4050 all the way up to a 4080 and every model in between, up to you how much you want to pay for those things, the temperatures on this and the noise are really good. The performance is where we would expect it to be. This isn't going to be as fast as a super thick mobile workstation or a gaming laptop, but given what we have to work with here in a 5-poundish kind of chassis, it does a good job. Also, the fan noise is really well tuned. It's like not annoying at all. It's a whoosh of air and that's it. And it stays below 50 decibels even when it's working hard or doing multiple benchmarks, any of those things you want to do. As ever, this is designed for prosumers, as Dell says, or content creators, as I would say. Those of you who are using Blender, or you're using Adobe Premiere, or any number of content creation tools. It's not a gaming laptop, but I know a lot of people buy this, and even the XPS 15, because they want a little gaming on the road too. And yes, it is capable of that. The cooling solution is not really designed for 9 hours a day straight of gaming, but then with these GPUs, whether you get the 4050, the 4060, the 4070, which is what we have, or the 4080, which I think is kind of a waste of money given the power and thermal constraints of this chassis. Stick with the 4070 as a max. But anyway, they're 60-watt GPUs and 70-watt with boost. So that might sound pathetic, right, compared to a gaming laptop, but actually we've seen some mobile workstations that run even lower watts and lower performance. So the performance on this isn't bad. I mean, you look at the Firestrike score on this, and you compare this to a pretty cutting edge 2-3-year-old gaming laptop, and you've got the same score on this. That's how technology improves, even though you might say, well, this just looks like last year's model. The CPU performance is not hugely different from the last generation, but we already know this about Intel 13th generation H series processors. The HX series, even higher wattage processors used in gaming laptops and top mobile workstations. That's a big leap. So here you're not going to see much of a change, 5% or so. I noticed in benchmarks the numbers really weren't that different from last generation, but in using it for things like content creation, like exporting a 4K video in Adobe Premiere, for example, an 8-minute video, it did it 2 minutes quicker. So it's not just down to the GPU there. The CPU also is utilized for these things like video exports and encodings. So there's some performance there, but not a reason to upgrade. Whereas the RTX 4000 series GPUs, for those of you particularly who are doing things like Blender or want to do some gaming on the side, that would be. So our review unit loaner from Dell came with the 4K Plus display. And you know, I booted up and I was like, it's been a year since I looked at the XPS 17 last year. I'm like, wow, I forgot how good looking that screen is. It almost makes you think about mini LED or OLED at first. It doesn't have that contrast ratio. For IPS, it's really quite good, but the color saturation, the sharpness on this thing, and the color accuracy. I mean, look at this color accuracy graph where lower bars are better, shorter bars. It's really good. And given that content creators are the target for this, well, that's nice. But even if you're consuming content, you're watching videos or what have you, whoa, it is good looking. You're not going to be like, I wish I had the OLED model. You know, not quite so much anyway. Other than you don't get the inky blacks. But the black levels are pretty good on this. Speaking of entertainment and multimedia things, we have quad stereo speakers, 8 watts total of sound. And that's another thing you forget after I don't look at the XPS 17 for around a year. I boot it up, I start playing some videos, and I'm like, wow, the bass is what I would call almost silky. Yeah, it's got bass, but it's not brash or blubbering or something like that. It just sounds really good. So it's a lovely content consumption laptop. Now, with a starting price just under $2,500, it might be on the expensive end just to buy something to watch movies with, granted, but it's certainly a nice side perk while you're doing your important creative stuff too during the day, right? Yeah. Battery life, not much different from last year's model. You get a big battery inside, 97 watt hour, and the usual 130 watt USB-C charger. Dell's a little special sauce to get USB-C going that high for watts for charging. Now we have the 4K Plus display, so you know, it's going to be worse than the full HD Plus display, but I think Dell claims around 9 hours. I would say 200 nits of brightness, mix of productivity, streaming some videos, that sort of thing. I expect 6 to 8 hours. You know, it depends on how much you're going to be hitting the GPU and all that sort of thing. But given the performance level of this, the size and the big screen and the resolution, that's actually not bad. And I don't think it would be hard to watch your consumption and really get it closer to that 8-hour runtime. As ever, to take off the bottom, Torx T5 screws, they're all visible, and be very careful because, again, as ever, the edges of this are sharp. I mean, you will cut yourself if you're not careful. Right along there, evil. All right, here are the internals. This is the vapor chamber right here, 2 large fans, 2 RAM slots in the center, so you can get anywhere from 16 to 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM, 4800 megahertz. We have 2 M.2 SSD slots, obviously full height, 2280. You can get it with 1 or 2 SSDs from Dell. You can get anywhere from 512 gigabytes to all the way up to 8 terabytes, depending on what you want. And these are PCIe 4, so fast SSD slots. The Wi-Fi card is soldered on over here, so no upgradesy-wadesies there. But you know, it is a cutting-edge card. Like I said, the limiting design, I would assume, is the antenna routing that doesn't allow this to go all the way to Wi-Fi 6E and get stuck at Wi-Fi 6. 2 of the 4 speakers are here. These would no doubt be the down-firing woofers, and then there's 2 up-firing surrounding the keyboard deck, and the 97 watt-hour battery. So that's the Dell XPS 17 for 2023. Maybe not a lot has changed, but it's still one of the nicest 17-inch creator-oriented laptops out there, and it combats the 16-inch MacBook Pro with an extra inch to spare and a higher resolution display. For those of you who prefer Windows land, I mean, you know, it doesn't get much better than this for this size of machine. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.